Good morning all. We had a beautiful sunny weekend which was quite enjoyable. I got a little bit done outside on Saturday. That'll be in a different video. But as you can tell from the sky behind me, it's quite overcast today and is forecast to be that way for a couple of days at least anyway. Oh, sorry about that. I remember someone I used to work with for quite a number of years who had previously been an agricultural contractor with his family, i.e. his brothers and father, and he said that his dad complained sometimes that he used to break a lot of the machinery. He said to his dad, "Yeah, well, that's because I do most of the work." Now, putting aside that some people are harder on machinery than others, there is obviously an element of truth to the statement, i.e. if you don't do anything, you're unlikely to break anything. And machinery does break, just in the normal course of events, things wear out. And so you might be wondering why I'm telling you this story, but it all relates to this tap here. This tap is leaking. And this is the tap that Kathy uses the most to water the veggie garden and all the things that she is propagating around here and over here, all over the place. And so this tap doesn't give me a lot of trouble because I don't use it that much, whereas she does. And so I need to sort this tap. Now it may be that, and this can happen, if taps are left to leak too long, then where the water is leaking through the valve, it will actually erode the seat that the washer goes on, in which case you can either get a tool to try and grind some of the brass away, it's called reseating, or you can replace the tap. So first job is turn the water off, which is what I have done, and then I will take the top off the tap, have a look at the valve seat, and hopefully just replace the washer and we should be all fine. I do keep a bag of washers of various sizes and types, so let me do a quick explain on those. So in the bag here, so these red ones, that's a 1/2 inch one. Those are for hot taps. They're a more fibrous type washer. This is a cold tap one, but that's a 3/4 one. That's not what we want. And there's some other compound type ones. I'm not sure whether that, I think these are still cold as well. But what I need for this job is this one here. So you may be able to see that this has got a little recess in here. Some of the valve stems will have a nut on the bottom of them to hold the washer on, so that if it does stick to the seat, then it will lift off again. Some of them don't. And then there's this type of one, which actually the whole piece gets replaced. And there's another variation on a 20mm, which is a similar idea. So we'll take the top off the tap and we'll see what we've got, and then we'll go from there. And there you go, there's the nut. Not particularly tight, I'd have to say. And the washer doesn't look too bad, unfortunately. We'll see. Not sure whether we'll be able to see down in there particularly well. That's the seat down in the bottom there. I'm going to go and get a light to see what we can see. I can't see any evidence of the seat being eroded in there at all. And the washer actually looks pretty good as well. So I'm wondering if perhaps there was just a bit of grit in there. But when you go to put this back on to the valve body, you always need to make sure that you back off the tap slightly, so that when you're putting it on, you're not crushing it down onto the valve. I'm not 100% happy with that. Let's just let's take this off. I'm going to give this a bit of a clean up around here, and also see if I can find a washer to go under that, or clean that thread up a bit, because I'm concerned that the water's actually passing around behind this. A, because that's not particularly clean, and B, because it's not being held on there very well. I'll go and do that. I decided to come down to the workshop to deal with this. So this part here, which has a stem that goes up inside here, so these should separate. Now this was actually frozen, and that doesn't help anything, because ideally you want the seat to be able to, you want the washer to be able to seat onto the seat, and not turn when you're winding this in. Now I've freed that up now so that the tap can be turned without the washer having to turn at the same time. So I'm actually going to free that right out of there. We'll see how that goes. It seemed to me that the easiest way to do that is to wind this down as far as it goes, set it against here, hold it with the tap, and then wind this off it. So that's what I'm doing. So that's now well freed. I'm not going to take it all the way off, but it is now free to move. So that was the main thing I was trying to accomplish there. So now we'll clean this up and see if we can find a washer. By virtue of the fact that I have worked at many and various things, and also tend to be a bit of a hoarder, with good reason, that's what they all say, I do have both a brass nut, which is really better than the stainless one that was in there. Not quite sure why that was in there. It's probably one that got replaced a while ago. And several brass washers. Now, I would never put steel washers in something like this because that's going to corrode and give you trouble. So I've just realised I haven't got the light on, so let's do that. So that I'm actually thinking I might put that on the other way around, because that will seat better on there. If you look at that, it's not seating very well on the back there. So if I turn that over, then if I stick a couple of washers on there, then I can put that on. Then it'll be good and tight. And we'll back that off a bit. We will go and put it in the tap. After due consideration, I've decided just to run with the fibre washer that we have, and hopefully that will suffice. Next time I'm in town, I will see if I can get some appropriate fibre washer to go on here, because I have several of these taps around the place obviously, and from time to time they need maintenance. So I'm just going to nip this up. The reason I put this other spanner on when I was taking it off was you never know quite how tight these are going to be, and you don't want to put stress on the fitting in the wall when you're trying to wrench it off. So it always pays to have a spanner on it to go against the force that you're applying. Let's see how this goes. That seems to have sorted the problem. So, job done. Yes, that is a real orchid. It sits in the window in our bathroom and thrives there. It's one that my wife rescued from somewhere else. It was looking very sad many years ago when we first brought it home, but now it loves that spot and we enjoy having it there. But that's not why I'm in the bathroom. Why I'm in the bathroom is because of this cold tap here that does turn off if you apply enough pressure, as I can do, but other members of the household struggle. Now there's no water coming out of it now because I have turned the water off. So when you turn the water off to your house, it's always a good idea to turn on an outside tap to relieve the pressure. And also it means that if your stopcock, Toby, whatever, doesn't completely seal, then you don't have a leak inside. But obviously the outside tap needs to be lower than the tap you're working on inside. And the other thing that I do is I turn on the bath tap, which is pretty much always the lowest tap in the house. And so I'll do that as well. I will also leave that tap on when I turn the water back on, because then hopefully most of the air that will be in the system will come out there and not somewhere else. That's not a foolproof solution, but it certainly helps. Let me just jiggery pokery this tripod here a bit. These taps have been in here for 30 years, and they're ceramic seat ones, and so I have never ever had to deal with the washers in them. And fortunately, I mean, as you can tell, they're brass taps that had a coating on once upon a time that has somewhat deteriorated. Not quite sure why that's... That won't tighten, but that's not going to go anywhere. Anyway, back off the washer. Fortunately, this has actually a hex on it so that it's easy to undo, unlike a lot of them that are just chrome or whatever and round, which makes life more difficult. And of course the whole tap wants to move, which I don't want to happen. So we'll just hold that and move this around gently, Bentley. What I actually need is a slightly smaller spanner, I think. But no. Now, I appreciate that this isn't going to do the plastic coating on this tap any good, but I'm not that concerned about that because all of this is scheduled to be, well, the plan is to revamp this bathroom next year as part of a wider revamp. And so the tap will be replaced anyway. I'm going to try a bit more light in here. There we go. Aha. So as is usual, this is just a cover, and the bit that I actually need to undo is underneath it, so I'll need to take this top off first. So that I can get at the actual valve underneath there to undo it. If there are small bits involved, it's a good idea to put the plug in, but I'm not expecting there to be small bits involved, so I haven't put the plug in. So there we go, now we can see the actual square that's on here that I need to undo. Because there's still a little bit of pressure in the hot, I can rinse my fingers off. Let's see if we can get this undone. This might be more of a challenge.
I'm going to go and get what my father used to call the water pump pliers, we refer to as polygrips, and a rag to hold that. I'll be back in a minute. I did record a previous video on changing a tap washer outside. I can't remember whether I've ever posted it, but and I don't know. Yes, I think you can see down in there that that seat is actually quite pitted, and that's because the tap hasn't been turned off properly and the water, or there's been a bit of grit in there or something, and the water has eroded the seat, which is a bit of a problem, because even if I replace the washer, which is looking a bit sad, which is probably what I'll do and hope that it sorts it, but I'm only 50% sure that that will sort the problem. But if it holds up, you know, for a year, that's all I'm really asking for. We'll see how we go here. So what I need to do now, I will actually take this down to the workshop because it's just easier to deal with, and remove this washer and replace it with a new one, and then put it back in, and we'll see what the result is. As you can see, I have now put the plug in, because there is a real and present danger of me losing this little nut off the end down inside there, which wouldn't be good, because then I'd have to pull all the waste apart to get it back out again. Here's what I've done. I have pulled this apart all together. Now there's a rubber O-ring here that fits up inside there, which is what stops the water going from this side up the stem and causing all that gunk that you saw at the top of this when I went to undo it. And that's obviously was pretty gungy up inside there, and also in here where it goes. So I cleaned all of that out with my scraper. Now this scraper I made many years ago from a 3-cornered file. You can still see the file markings at the top there. Files are, by their very nature, very, very hard steel, and so they do make excellent scrapers. I am going to quickly put a little bit of Vaseline on that, just to aid its lubrication up in there and the seal. So I'll go and grab that. Then I can put that back together. I really wanted to get this apart here, but it was feeling like it was going to break if I tried to do that. As it is, there's a bit of the thread came off the end here as well with that when I took the nut off. That was a fairly ginger affair as well. So then This little nut goes on the end here to hold the washer on so that it doesn't drop off, and hopefully that is going to go back on okay with that slightly mangled thread on the end. It's cross-threading, which is what I thought it would do. Let's have another crack at this. That's better. I did take to all of this, well, no, I didn't take to it. I used the brass wire wheel that I have on one of my grinders to give all of this a bit of a clean up. I want that loose enough so that that washer can rotate, seeing I wasn't able to free this up. Alrighty, now I will just pull that back enough so that that O-ring is in there, and then we'll put this back in here. In fact, I will back this all the way off as far as it will go, so that when I tighten this, it's not compressing that down onto the seat. Before I put the rest of that together, I am going to go and turn the water on. So I'll just nip that down. I shall return. Obviously, the water that you could hear was the water running into the bath. So now we'll just give this a quick clean up here. It's okay, it's not ideal. It is still seeping a bit, and that will obviously become worse over time, but I mean, I could replace the taps, but I don't really want to do that at this point, because I would expect that when we put the new stuff in, it'll be a mixer rather than individual taps. But we'll see. I think that's done. I can now put that back together, and Kathy will be happy, because this is the sink that she uses the most. I tend not to use this one because there's one in our bedroom that I use. Alright, let's put it back together. Just as I finish this off, I thought I should explain that on most of the older style taps like this, you will have on the top here a metal cap with the hot and cold in it. And you undo that cap, it'll be knurled on the outside so that you can get a hold of it. You undo that, and inside it will be a nut. Much like the one at the other end, really, of the stem. And you undo that nut, and then you can pull this off. But this one's a little bit different in that it's a one-piece thing that goes in there, and and tightens down. It's actually quite a reasonably good way of doing it, I think, because it means that you can actually get a hold of this more easily to tighten it down. Voila! Okay, done.